All right, 16.1 UI Kit, Pajamas UI Kit release notes. Fortunately, this time Dan is able to join me so that it's not just me narrating, and so we can have a little more conversation. I will start by saying, Dan, thank you for all of your massive effort in not only this release with the UI Kit, but just what you bring to the team. It's super helpful, and I hope others also sense the same and benefit from that like I have. So, all right, welcome to the 16.1 release notes. The release notes are, I will go ahead and share so that you have some context here. Release notes are what we're publishing on the Pajamas website under Get Started, Pajamas UI Kit, release notes, and it is for the Pajamas UI Kit, which is all of our Figma assets that we distribute that have libraries that designers can use to design for GitLab. And the release notes we're capturing once per milestone, all of the additions, enhancement, changes, fixes, removals, notes, etc., that relate to those files. We don't do any other versioning of the file other than this. And so by releasing once a milestone, it provides a predictable opportunity. So that's what they are, where to find them. You can view the history. We started this on 15.11, and we will continue onward as long as it's helpful. So on that note, please let us know if this is helpful. If there are other details that you would like to see or suggestions, please let us know in Slack. So Dan, on to you to discuss some of the font changes.
Sure. So yeah, the release note starts a little bit differently in that it talks about next release rather than the release that's just happened. But we wanted to give everyone a little bit of a heads up because we think it's going to be a little bit disruptive and we're not able to prevent it completely. This past few weeks, we've been looking at updating GitLab Sans to pull through the latest, some of the latest fixes and optimizations from Inter. Some of the really good stuff is some clearer rendering of certain characters, especially at some of the higher weights and at smaller sizes as well. What happens though is some line lengths increase and decrease. Decrease for the larger sizes, increase for the smaller sizes. This is expected, but we're not able to update the fonts for everyone in an opt-in way. The fonts are set at the org level in Figma, and they're just on or off. So a little example of this, I've pulled in a beta version that we've been doing some testing with. Here's how it rendered before when it was quite large. This is 96. But the new render, you can see the old one in the red, and the new one's a lot more compact. Looks better, but this shifting of sizes might cause some layout changes in your files. If you've got any concerns about this, for example, you're running some user testing with some prototypes at a certain time during the last week or so of the milestone, do reach out to us and we can see how we can help work around that, and any suggestions we might have. When the fonts get updated at the org level, it'll affect all of the files immediately. As a positive, in this milestone, we'll be updating the type scales for some of the headings and getting them implemented in GitLab UI. They've been out of sync for a while now. So hopefully by the end of this milestone, start of the next one, we'll be well on our way to having the typography in Figma match the typography in the design system and GitLab UI, and match the typography in the product, which will hopefully make collaboration, handovers, MR reviews, all of that sort of stuff a lot easier. So yeah, any concerns, do reach out, but there's no way to opt in to this one. It's going to affect everyone all at once.
Awesome. And up next is some changes to icons. So there's a few added. I won't list everything here, but take a look at that. A few additions and a few enhancements. Julia's been amazing at contributing to iconography and illustration. And so there's some really good enhancements to optical sizing for some of the editor icons. So I'll switch over to Figma quick and give you a preview. One of the things that that Julia mentioned was that we could enhance the optical sizing, and that's just the kind of perceived balance between the icons, especially when they're in the editor, when there's a string of them together. That included the comment icons, but the optical sizing when they were present together could just have a little more balance. And so as part of that, there's some updates to the lists and the comments. So I'm in the file history right now, looking at the old version. And so I'll just go ahead and zoom in, and you'll notice the height increase on these icons, which is going to give them a little more optical weight and help them feel a little more balanced with the other editor icons. Another icon to mention that is new is the Tanuki AI icon that is currently being used to represent AI features in the product.
I was going to say thanks for having worked on that. The list ones and the way that those lines have come in to make them all feel the same shape. Really chef's kiss. So the recently was an MR merged to allow this avatar to display inline. I guess is similar to how we display them on comments and notes in activity anyway, but this adds it to GitLab UI in this format, so the styles will be consistent across. To support that, we've added it to the UI Kit instances as well. You can't pull this through as a component, but if you want to copy and paste it out to know that you're using styles that match, you can do that. Also, while we're here, there are some fixes. Later on, we'll talk about some of the things we've removed, one of them being the badges. And there were some instances and components that were hanging on and still using the old version of the badge. These stacks instances were one, so they've been updated to use the most up-to-date badge component. And there were some hidden ones in these menu items. There we go. You can see that there is a hidden badge in here that's sometimes visible. That was using an old version. And also over here, these menu items, the flyout ones, also had a badge that is hidden by default, but these now use the right ones. Don't worry about the strange shapes and positions. When they're visible, they display as they should. And we also updated the color swatch to use a checkbox that is from the design system rather than over time it become disassociated from anything. So that's updated. So you might see an update here, or if you're pulling through this color picker, you might see some updates there.
Kind of the last item here is something, it's rather large in the sense of I guess the impact to the file itself, maybe not your use case if you've already migrated. But we have several items that have been in deprecated status for some time now, at least a milestone minimum for our guidelines. But most of these getting closer to a year potentially. So if you haven't migrated any of these, there are links where you can find the new ones. If you need any help with that, please let us know. You can always refer to the file history if you need to retrieve an old design artifact. Any of your files that use this will continue to use it. It just won't be updated. It'll be more like a detached state. So these were removed. I'll jump over into Figma. Actually, before I do that, if you're curious about our deprecation process, you can look at that under the Figma guides, breaking changes. We have a section on deprecation and then what that means and how we think about it. So I would encourage you to become familiar with that if you would like. And then in Figma, once again, viewing the history of the UI kit, in this case, the component library, specifically, just jump back several versions before the deprecations happened to show you the before. So we have a deprecated section. All of the items are under the deprecated section. All of these have been removed in this latest release. This should do a few things. One is it's going to enable your file to be more performant, but also as we do future changes, these are lingering things that since they're in the file and use styles of the same name, they also get updated. So even though they were deprecated at a certain state, they might still inherit new changes, which we really want to avoid if possible, because then you won't have an accurate picture of the artifact at the time of deprecation, unless everything's detached, at which point then you can't really use it like you should anyway. So it's gonna enable some performance, but also as we move forward, just to edit the file, especially with typography, like Dan alluded to, these are extra sections where we would maybe show some false positives on type or font changes that haven't been made. Eliminating this really helps streamline some of the process. And so the current version, there is still a deprecated section as a placeholder, but there is nothing under it currently. So everything's been deprecated, and we've gone through that. So that will be very helpful. Again, if you need access to any of that, you can access that by going to the component library itself, click the drop down, and in this case, I'm viewing the history, but you can choose to show the version history. And we do label the different history instances. So you can see deprecations throughout here where those branches have been merged. So you would be able to go back to an older time period and find those present in there should you need them. I think we've kind of rounded that out for everybody, where there's links to the new ones and you can still access the old. So
Nice, thanks, Jeremy. So yeah, thanks everyone for checking out the 16.1 release. Some really great stuff in here. Thanks to everyone who's contributed. Really looking forward to seeing those new icons in use. And it's nice to have a little bit of clear space when we know we've got some trickiest changes coming up in the next milestone. Just a reminder to let us know if these updates are useful and if there's anything missing. And I know everything's busy and not a lot of people have, no one's got any spare capacity, but if there's anything that's really missing and could speed up your workflows, please do let us know. We're trying to balance everything and prioritize things. But other than that, have a great day.